What if everything you're clinging to is actually keeping you trapped? This pattern lives in the mind. It's the belief that holding on tighter will somehow make things more secure, more permanent, more yours. The mind wants to grip when threatened. You feel something slipping away and your first instinct is to squeeze harder. But here's the problem. The tighter you hold, the more it slips through your fingers, like water. You've been taught that letting go means losing, that surrender equals weakness. But what if the opposite is true? What if letting go is how you actually gain everything you've been searching for? Before we continue, if you're ready to break free from the repeating patterns that hold you back, check out my free guide, 5 Inner Blocks That Keep You from Deep Spiritual Growth. The link is waiting for you in the top comment below. Control is the ego's favorite survival strategy. It plans every outcome, manipulates every situation, tries to force life into neat little boxes. You wake up each morning with your mental checklist, convinced that if you can just manage enough variables, you'll finally feel safe. This creates an exhausting cycle. You resist what's happening now because it doesn't match your plan. You fight against the natural flow of change. And in that resistance, you get stuck in the same old patterns, wondering why nothing ever shifts. But here's what actually happens in your nervous system when you stop fighting reality. Your body begins to relax. That constant feeling of being on edge starts to fade away. The stress hormones that have been flooding your system finally get a chance to recede. When you release control, you're not giving up, you're making space. There is a difference between conscious surrender and a collapse. Surrender is active. It's choosing to work with life instead of against it. It's recognizing that your real power lies not in controlling outcomes, but in how you respond to what unfolds. The universe seems to conspire in your favor once you step out of the way. Not because some cosmic force suddenly decides to help you, but because you're no longer creating resistance to what's trying to emerge. You stop blocking the very opportunities you've been praying for. Real growth happens in the space between effort and surrender. You plant the seed, but you don't dig it up every day to check if it's growing. You water it, give it sunlight, then trust the process. This is how change actually works. When you let go of needing to control every detail, something interesting shifts in your nervous system. That fight or flight response that has been running in the background finally gets to rest. Your body remembers what peace feels like, and from that place of inner calm, you can see opportunities that were invisible when you were caught up in forcing things. The mind loves to tell you that without control, everything will fall apart. But look at nature. Trees don't control which way the wind blows, yet they learn to bend without breaking. Rivers don't force their way through mountains, yet they always find a path to the sea. You start to notice that life has its own intelligence. Things align in ways you never could have orchestrated. Doors open that you didn't even know existed. People show up exactly when you need them. Not because you manipulated the situation, but because you created space for synchronicity to unfold. This doesn't mean you become passive. You still take action, make decisions, pursue your goals, but you do it from a place of flow rather than force. You learn to distinguish between what's yours to control and what's not. And in that discernment, you find a freedom you never knew was possible. The mind panics at emptiness. It sees a gap and immediately rushes to fill it with something, anything. You end a relationship and within days you're already looking for the next one. You leave a job and before you even process the change, you're frantically applying everywhere. This is the mind's survival mechanism kicking in. But here's what most people miss. That space between letting go and receiving is sacred. It's where all transformation actually happens. When you resist this emptiness, when you try to fill it too quickly, you miss the entire point of letting go in the first place. This is where emotional detachment becomes crucial. Not the cold, disconnected kind that shuts you off from feeling. Real detachment is warm. It's caring deeply while not being enslaved by the outcome. You can love someone without needing to possess them. You can want something without your peace depending on getting it. The ego hates this space because it threatens its very existence. Your ego is built on attachments, on the stories of who you are, based on what you have, what you do, who loves you. When those attachments start loosening, the ego feels like it's dying, and in a way it is. But what emerges when identity becomes fluid is remarkable. You discover that you're not your job title, you're not your relationship status, you're not even your thoughts and emotions. You are the awareness that witnesses all of these things coming and going. This space feels uncomfortable because you've been conditioned to believe that emptiness equals lack. But emptiness is actually fullness waiting to be recognized. It's potential in its purest form. When your hands are empty, they can receive. When your mind is quiet, it can hear wisdom. When your heart is open, love can flow through it freely. Most people experience this transition as a kind of death. The old you that needed constant validation, that measured worth by external achievements, that believed happiness came from getting what you wanted. That version starts to fade. And there is often grief in this process. You're mourning not just what you let go of, but who you used to be. Your nervous system goes through its own recalibration during this time. Years of stress and striving have taught your body to stay in constant alert mode. When you finally stop pushing and forcing, your system doesn't know what to do with a sudden stillness. You might feel restless, anxious, or even depressed at first. This is normal. Your body is learning a new way of being. What fills this void isn't something you have to create or chase. It fills itself, but only when you stop trying to control what comes next. Creativity emerges, clarity appears. Opportunities that align with who you're becoming start showing up naturally. The inner mechanics of this process are fascinating. When you're constantly grasping, your energy is scattered, focused outward on getting and keeping. But when you let go, that energy returns to its source. You become magnetic rather than desperate. You attract rather than chase. People often ask what they're supposed to do in this space. The answer is simple: be present with it. Don't rush to fill it. Don't judge it. Don't try to make meaning out of it too quickly. Just let it be. Let yourself be empty for a while. Let yourself not know what comes next. This is where the real magic happens. It's not knowing, in the space between breaths, in the pause between thoughts. It's where new possibilities are born. But they can only emerge when you're not already clutching onto something else. Resistance creates friction in every area of life. You can feel it in your body as tension, in your mind as constant worry, in your relationships as conflict. When you're fighting against what is, everything becomes harder than it needs to be. The shift from fighting against to moving with life's natural rhythm is profound. Instead of swimming upstream, exhausting yourself against the current, you learn to read the water. You find the flow and let it carry you. This doesn't mean you stop steering. It means you work with the forces around you instead of against them. When you're no longer emotionally attached to outcomes, your discernment becomes clearer. You can see situations without the fog of need clouding your vision. You make decisions from wisdom rather than desperation. You choose what serves your highest good rather than what temporarily soothes your fears. This brings a freedom most people never experience, the ability to see situations without the filter of personal agenda. You can observe what's happening without immediately jumping to how it affects you, what it means about you, or how you can control it. This objective awareness is where real power lives. Your relationship with uncertainty transforms completely. Instead of seeing change as threat, you begin to recognize it as the natural pulse of life. You stop trying to create false security through control and find real security in your ability to adapt, to flow, to remain centered regardless of external circumstances. What becomes possible when you're no longer defending an old version of yourself is extraordinary. You can admit when you're wrong. You can change your mind. You can grow beyond the limitations you once thought defined you. The energy you used to spend maintaining a rigid identity is now available for expansion. Living in alignment means your inner state matches your outer actions. There is no more exhausting split between who you are and who you think you should be. You speak your truth because it feels natural, not because you're trying to prove something. You pursue what genuinely calls you, not what you think will impress others. Before we wrap up, if you found this helpful and want to go deeper, remember that free download I mentioned, 5 inner blocks that keep you from deep spiritual growth. The link is waiting for you in the top comment below. The counterintuitive truth is that what you gain always exceeds what you release. When you let go of the illusion of control, you gain real influence. When you release resistance, you find ease. When you stop clinging to outcomes, you discover presence. Right now, notice where you're still gripping too tightly. What would happen if you loosened that grip just a little? The invitation isn't to let go of everything at once, but to begin where you are.